The applause felt like wind on glass loud, hollow and impossible to hold. Maya Chun stood under the bright stage lights, a heavy trophy in one hand, her phone buzzing relentlessly in the other. She glanced at the screen. It was a short, grainy clip of a factory floor, a child's birthday cake half burned on a small table, a worker's hands stained dark with oil. The caption simply read, "This is what success looks like." The clip had 3 million views, and the number was still climbing. In that blinding moment, Maya understood that success and failure weren't on opposite ends of a scoreboard. They were just two different faces of the same mirror. Maya had grown up in a neighborhood where ambition was just a rumor and stability felt like a miracle. She learned early on to trade favors for opportunities, to read people the way others read the weather. Her company, Lumen Labs, started as a simple idea scribbled on a napkin. Affordable energy solutions for communities that had always been left behind. But that idea grew. It became a global brand, a headline, a symbol of progress. Investors started calling her a visionary. Her employees called her relentless. And the world called her a success. But success, she discovered, came with a ledger full of compromises. To scale up, Lumen outsourced its production to cheaper factories overseas. To meet those demanding quarterly targets, a few corners were trimmed here and there. To protect the shiny brand image, uncomfortable stories were quietly edited out of the official narrative. Maya told herself these were just necessary sacrifices, the cold calculus of impact. To reach more people, to do more good, some things would inevitably have to break along the way. That's just business, right? The first real sign of trouble arrived in a single, unassuming email. It was from a junior engineer named Tomas. He wrote about a critical safety protocol that had been bypassed to speed up shipments and meet a deadline. He attached photos. The evidence was clear. Maya immediately forwarded the email to her legal and operations teams, marking it urgent. The reply she got back wasn't a solution. It was a cost-benefit analysis. The report showed that a delay would cost millions and risk their momentum in the market. The decision was made. They would proceed with the shipment. A few months later, a fire broke out in one of those factories. Several workers were injured. Lumen issued a public statement expressing deep regret and promising a full investigation. The story made headlines for a day or two, then quickly faded, replaced by the usual buzz of quarterly earnings reports and exciting new product launches. But the footage Tomas had taken grainy, human, and painfully intimate found its way onto social media. A former employee, angry and disillusioned, stitched it into a montage. They added interviews with factory workers, snapshots of unpaid bills, and personal stories. That montage was what landed on Maya's phone at 2 a.m. She watched it alone in the dark. Faces she had never learned to name stared back at her from the screen. A mother explaining why she needed the overtime hours. A teenager describing the immense pride he felt earning his first paycheck. A man who fixed machines, humming a soft lullaby to himself as he worked. The montage didn't use angry rhetoric to accuse her. It just showed people. It showed their lives. She scrolled down to the comments. They weren't all angry. In fact, many were just pleading. One comment stood out. "Remember us?" That short clip became a movement. Maya's first instinct was to manage the crisis. She tried to respond with carefully worded statements and large donations. She launched a new safety audit and promised sweep-in reforms. Her board praised the strategic PR pivot. But the movement wanted something more than press releases. They wanted accountability. They wanted names. They wanted real, structural change. Then things got personal. Lena, Maya's younger sister, a fierce community organizer, posted her own video. She looked straight into the camera and asked a simple question. Why had the company's mission drifted so far from its origins? Her video went viral, amplifying the public outcry. People started asking a new, more pointed question. Had Lumen Labs traded its soul for scale? The turning point came during a live television interview. A journalist looked Maya in the eye and asked a question so simple it was disarming. When did you stop listening? The question landed like a stone. For the first time in public, Maya felt the crushing weight of all the small decisions, all the compromises she had rationalized over the years. She thought of Tomas's email. She thought of the janitor who had once stayed late just to help her fix a prototype. She thought of that child's half-burned birthday cake. She thought of the promise she had made to her mother all those years ago, that she would build something that truly mattered, on air, live, in front of millions. She did something completely unexpected. She stopped reciting her talking points. She told a story, not about metrics or milestones, but about a cold night in a cramped apartment, when she and Lena had shared a single bowl of instant noodles and a grand plan. She admitted the company had failed the very people it was meant to serve. She named the mistakes. She named the people who had been hurt, and she apologized. Without any qualifiers. Without any excuses. The apology didn't end the crisis overnight. Regulators opened inquiries. Competitors started circling like vultures. Investors demanded a concrete plan. But that apology changed the entire conversation. People who had felt invisible finally felt seen. Employees who had been silenced for so long found the courage to speak up. Tomas came forward publicly, not as a whistleblower, but as an expert who wanted to help. The movement began to shift, moving from accusation toward collaboration. Maya knew things couldn't go back to the way they were. She didn't try to rebuild the old empire. Instead, she stepped down as CEO. She created a brand new role for herself. Chief Steward. It was a position designed to be accountable not to the board, but to the workers, the communities, and a new, independent ethics council. She invited her sister Lena to lead the company's community partnerships. She started funding worker-owned cooperatives and committed to radical transparency in their reporting. Lumen's stock wavered, then it stabilized. The market, it turned out, could adjust to a different model of growth, one that was slower, messier, but ultimately more resilient. The most important change, however, was cultural. Every meeting now began with a 5-minute check-in, focused solely on human impact. Product roadmaps were redesigned to include worker safety as a completely non-negotiable metric. The company opened its books to independent auditors and began publishing the stories of the people behind the products. Some of the old investors left, sure, but new partners arrived, foundations, mission-driven funds, and a growing base of customers who genuinely cared about how things were made. Years later, Maya walked through a factory that smelled of fresh paint and machine oil. She stopped at a small table where a group of workers were building a new prototype for a community microgrid. One of them, a woman named Asha, looked up and smiled at her. "We get to decide how this works now," she said, her voice filled with pride. In that moment, Maya felt something she had never truly felt at the height of her fame. A quiet, unshakable confidence. Not because the company was perfect, but because it had finally learned how to be accountable.